Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Mayor and Chief at your service. I'm Linda Colbert. I'm the mayor of Vienna, and this is Jim Morris, and he's chief of police.
Hi.
And we like to partner. We have been doing this for about 3 years, I think, our third year, and we kind of take turns. We have a police subject topic one quarter, and then it hops over and we do something with the town. At the end of all of our mayor and chiefs, you have time to ask us questions about anything going on in the town, whether it's police related or just anything in general about Vienna. And we love to be available to answer your questions and have a conversation with you about that. So this, of course, is a very exciting one. I remember taking the class years and years and years ago, and I still remember things about it, and they're always in my mind when I'm in a situation where I think I might need to be extra careful if I'm by myself in a garage at night or whatever it happens to be. So it's a great program, but I'm going to pass it over to the chief. Sure. And we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mayor. The RAD program, the Women's Self-Defense Program, is just an incredibly popular program with the department. We've been doing it as a department since '94. Captain Kristen Ruddy has been doing it for the last 17 years and just really steering the ship on this program, getting the information out, and just doing it to the community. She's even now regionally, she's helping train instructors, just doing a boatload of work with the program and a fabulous job. Actually, it's probably too fabulous because every time she puts a program on, I spend the next 2 weeks answering emails. Everyone sends an email, oh my God, it's the best program I went to. Oh my God, that's amazing. So I know when she puts it on, I'm gonna lock down the next 2 days, just sending back emails. But it's a great program. Tonight, what we're gonna do, and Kristen will explain it, just give an overview of it. The goal for tonight is to explain the program a little bit, just introduce you to it, with the overall goal, honestly, of maybe at some point you signing up for the 4 nights and coming. It's in this room. It's a little bit of a time commitment, which is usually what is the drawback to some people, but everybody that goes through, my wife went through, my stepdaughter went through, they all just thoroughly enjoy it. So as you hear tonight, she'll explain how to sign up for it. Please take advantage of it in the future and come and actually sign up for the program. So with that, Captain Wright.
Thank you. So I just want to start by giving some expectations on what you will hear tonight. We're going to talk for about 45 minutes, give or take, on some self-defense education, some tips that you can take home actually tonight, but we're not going to cover physical techniques. That takes repetitions and practice, and we just don't have the venue or the time to do it properly in a setting like this. So we will point you to where you can take that class, though. We do offer it 4 times a year here in this room. So I'll explain all of that before you leave. We're going to talk about what is self-defense, what does that even mean, and how does it apply to our lives. What's RAD? RAD is the actual self-defense program that we teach and we implement. Like I said, we'll give you a handful of tips that you can take home and actually apply tonight. And then I'll talk about Vienna's classes and how you can register. I'll provide you that link, a QR code, so you can scan it on your phone if you want to go right to that so you don't lose that for the future. So what is self-defense? Has anyone ever thought about that concept or how it applies to you? And if you'll answer, kind of shout out, what is self-defense to you?
Defending yourself.
Defending yourself? What else?
Being prepared if someone should be suspicious or try to attack you.
Yeah, being prepared is the emphasis of this whole class. Being prepared if someone were to attack, absolutely. Anyone else?
Aware of your surroundings.
Aware of your surroundings, absolutely. That's ground one. Chief, any input? What's self-defense to you?
Self-defense to me is all of those things. It's being aware of your surroundings, be aware of what's going on, but also being prepared to do something should something happen to you. I know even in the law enforcement profession, we talk about use of force and all that. That's all self-defense itself too, is being able to react to the situation and protect yourself or others.
So keeping all of that in mind, we can really narrow it down to a common concept of the use of physical force to counter an immediate threat of violence. That's if you Google it, that's what pops up. If you go to Wikipedia, Wikipedia says it's a countermeasure that involves defending the health and well-being of oneself from harm. So tying it all together, it's really just defending yourself from physical harm, right? A quick physical response to a physical threat, that's self-defense. Making sure we stay safe. But like anything that involves the law, there's a lot of nuance to it. So if we're going to talk about what is self-defense and how do we physically defend ourselves, how do we commit an assault on somebody who is assaulting us first, because we are teaching how to commit assault, it's just legally justified. And that legal justification is self-defense. So what does that even mean then? What makes it self-defense? How does it qualify for that legal exception? First, it has to be required for the escape. So if I'm at a party and some guy grabs my hand and he says, hey, let's go to the other room, I can't hear you. You're real cool, let's talk. And he grabs my hand and he starts dragging or pulling a little bit to get me to a different location. And I say, no, I'm good here. And he keeps pulling me. I have to, or is defending myself required for that escape? Do I have to do something to remove my wrist from his grip or my hand from his grip? Yeah, so it's required for the escape. So if I were to deploy a technique, that would be legally justified. Moving on, it must be objectively reasonable, which means a jury of your peers, if you've heard that phrase before, or most people in your situation would do something similar, not the exact same technique, but something similar in order to escape. So let's use that same scenario. We're at a party and someone grabs my arm. Is it reasonable for me to gouge his eyes out at a party? If you're going to say yes, you have to be able to articulate it, right? So reasonable articulation that most would agree is appropriate. That's generally the consensus. Let's change that context a little bit, though. How about we're walking home from Mayor and Chief presentation. You live 2-3 blocks down. Dark sidewalk, not well lit. Someone pops out of the bushes and they grab your hand and they're pulling and they're saying, come with me. Might an eye gouge now be appropriate? Absolutely. So context matters, right? Articulation matters. You need to have that objectively reasonable standard in order for that physical response to apply as self-defense. Make sense? Questions on that?
What did you do with the hand thing? Did you say it and I missed it?
What to do instead?
Yeah, the first example that you were saying when he wanted you to go to the room and he was sort of, taking your hand. And
Yeah, so the question is, what would you do in that situation? Come to class and you can find out. Almost got me. So defensive action must also be protecting oneself from imminent harm of injury, sexual assault, or unlawful detention or abduction. So there's 3 prongs there, where you're actively getting hurt, or getting hurt is imminent, as in will happen in the next few seconds if you don't do something to protect yourself. Sexual assault is imminent, or, and this is really the key of our class, defending yourself against that abduction. And we'll define abduction more and what that actually means. Because I'm sure we have some, the movie Taken, we have all that version of abduction and what that is and removing somebody and taking them to a new location, but it's actually way less of a standard than that. And then the action has to be responding to an ongoing or presently imminent threat. So it has to be happening right now. So let's say that same guy who grabbed my wrist on the sidewalk at dark and I defended myself and I got away. Let's say I see him the next day. Noon, he's sitting in the ballpark benches. Am I allowed to go up and punch him in the face? Is that, well, I should say this. Is that self-defense? You might want to, but it's not legally justified as self-defense. It is now assault. So if you can meet those elements, you can justify self-defense. That's a very basic and foundational application of self-defense in the law. It changes as you go state by state. It changes with jurisdiction, and it does become nuanced. So that's not legal advice. It's just exposure to basic elements that have to be met in order for self-defense to apply. So what's RAD? RAD actually stands, the word or the letters RAD stands for rape aggression defense. What's rape aggression defense? It's really just defense against abduction. We want to dial our self-defense all the way back before the abduction even happens. Abduction is restricting a person's freedom of movement by force, threat, or intimidation. So there is no requirement that you be removed from your location. If someone were to come in here and threaten us and say, none of you are leaving, and we believed that he had the means, the intent, and the ability to act on whatever threat he told us, we would all be abducted. Simple as that. So with a lot of these assaults, abduction is actually an offense that also occurs. So if there's an assault or a rape, abduction is also occurring. And we often do get those charges to accompany any of those other violent charges. So if we can prevent the abduction from even happening by using our risk avoidance, our risk reduction strategies that we'll discuss later, then we don't even get to the point of the attack. And isn't that better at the end of the day, that we don't even get attacked in the first place? So we want to bring self-defense way before we even see a threat. That's the goal. RAD bases their program on education and physical development of techniques. So we really combine classroom education, knowledge-based mindset training, stress inoculation that allows you to practice and train through that panic, because panic's going to be there. There's no way to avoid it. Fight or flight is a natural instinct we all possess. There's no getting out of it. So if we know that's going to be present, we have to teach ourselves how to do it anyways. How are we going to resist anyways, even though I'm terrified? And we give you the opportunity to slowly build that skill set in a way that will stick over time. Once we add the physical development and our techniques, we learn in a circle that, again, I'll talk about later. Eventually, when we combine all of that and we have some patience and training, that's what leads to the empowerment and the belief that, okay, I can do this. I am able to defend myself against some guy that's twice my size. RAD is an international program. It's in several countries across the world. It's time tested. It was created in 1989. Like the chief said, we've been teaching it since 1994. I've been a police officer here in Vienna for 18 years. Been teaching the program, the RAD program, for 17 years. So been around a little bit. And it's a foundational class. We're not here to teach you skills that can get you out of every imaginable situation. We're here to teach you options so that you can apply what you know to the attack that's being perpetrated on you. And our instructional objective is to develop and enhance the options of self-defense so they become viable considerations to the woman who is attacked. That's a lot of words to say, we're here to show you your options, you get to decide what you do with them. So we're gonna put a bunch of stuff in your tool belt to include things that aren't even physical techniques so that we can avoid the attack way before it even happens. And if we can do that, you are now equipped with the ability to use them if you do need them. Why RAD though? Why not martial arts? Why not a police department's specific program? Why is the Vienna police utilizing the RAD program? First, I'll disclaim that RAD is a program, it's not the program. We support training in all genres. If you want to go do jiu-jitsu, if you want to go do Muay Thai, if you want to go do Krav Maga, go for it, do it, that's great. We promote RAD because it's a way to give basic and foundational concepts and techniques in a small little package that women can leave in 12 hours feeling confident in what they've learned. And because there's a free lifetime return and practice policy, you can keep coming back. So it's not cost prohibitive. We charge $15 to take the class. If you go take an hour personal training with martial arts gym, it could be up to $150, $300. Some people even charge like $1,500 for a self-defense certification class. And then they actually try and certify you and say, you're now certified in self-defense. We try and keep a realistic expectation though, that there are no guarantees. We do not want to create a false sense of security and have women leaving thinking, oh, I took this 12-hour class, now I can go put myself in danger. I can walk down those dark alleys. I can go places alone without being aware. I can be on my phone and not paying attention to my surroundings because now I know how to do a knee strike. So we don't want to create that mindset. We want women realizing you have these options and these opportunities to defend yourself if you need it, but let's not put you in that situation in the first place. We also, our instructors will meet students where they're at. So you get to decide what your participation level is. If something makes you uncomfortable, you don't have to do it. You can stay and watch, you can skip it, you can step out. You're in control of what you learn. We offer a safe environment that you are welcome to make mistakes. You're welcome to try and do new things, even if you didn't get it before. We'll check on you to make sure you're okay if you decide not to participate, but we're not going to come pressure you to do something that you don't want to do. And on the other side, if you've gotten all this stuff before, you've done self-defense training, you've been in RAD, you've done other martial arts training, you can come to this class, learn all the educational parts, and then you get to actually practice your techniques in simulations. And we'll discuss what simulations are. But simulations are the opportunity where you can put all of your skills together and do it in a simulated environment that has stress and pressure added to the scenario, where you get to practice your techniques and your decision making all at the same time. That's a skill that is not easy and it's not natural. So practicing in a safe environment is important. So if we talk about the victimization triangle, we don't want to scare women into not living their lives. We don't want to expose you to the knowledge of certain things and say, well, I'm not going out at night ever again. Or, I'm not going to go travel because I'm nervous about being attacked. I don't know what I can do to defend myself. We want women to realize you need to go out and live your life. We can't control where assailants are. They exist. So what can we control? The opportunity. And by using those risk reduction strategies that we'll touch on tonight, we won't dive in, but we'll touch on them, we remove that opportunity and the victimization triangle disappears. And here's the thing about trusting your gut and avoiding risks and reducing the risk's existence. You can't measure something that doesn't happen. So you're never going to get confirmation that what you're doing is right. So some people could get discouraged if they're not realizing you're never going to be proven that these things are working. You're never going to get that validation, but do them anyways, because that's a good sign. You can't measure prevention. We have 4 risks of personal safety that we touch on in depth in class, but I'll just breeze over them for the sake of this presentation. Risk awareness, risk reduction, risk recognition, and risk avoidance. If you combine the concepts of all 4 of those, that is 90% of self-defense education. RAD believes if you are able to put these things into practice and incorporate them into your lifestyles, how they apply to you personally, not how they apply to your neighbor, not how they apply to your friends or your kids, how do they apply to you, then you have made yourself that much safer. The rest of it is those physical techniques, those skill developments, but that takes repetition. So 10% of that is skill techniques, but it just takes longer to gain them. Does that make sense? So what are some risk reduction strategies then? Remember, if we're removing opportunity, and the opportunity is what we're trying to prevent, then making smart choices in our everyday life is what's going to give us that foundational measure of safety. So if you're out in public, recognizing things, if you have a high school shirt on that says where you go to school, if you have a bumper sticker that has the stick figures of your family and the family dog, if they have names on them, whatever. When you advertise personal details about your life, it's okay to do that. That's perfectly fine. Recognize, though, that you're educating strangers or people who know you things that they can now track. So they might go up to your kids, for example, and say, oh, hi, I know your mom. How's your dog? Whatever, because they saw your car. Or the bumper sticker says, my kid is an honor roll student at this high school. Well, now they know what high school to start researching and talking about. So when people create rapport through details that they learned in innocent advertising of your life, then it could be used against you. So again, we don't want you to not do those things. Do them. Just be aware of how they can be used to make you more vulnerable. If you're being followed, what do we think some ideas to keep us safest are if we're being followed? What are some good things to do?
Go around the block instead of going to your house.
Go around the block, absolutely. Yep, what else?
To the police department.
Go to the police department. What else?
Try to get where other people are.
Witness-rich environment. We use that word over and over and over again, witness-rich environment. So the answer is go somewhere people are. Police departments are great, fire departments are great, but think, what if no one's there? Chief doesn't want to see us at the station, right? He wants us out on the street. So if you pull up into our parking lot, chances are nobody's going to realize you need help. You got to get through bulletproof glass to yell for a dispatcher to hear you. So it's not like, tag, we're on home base, I'm safe now. The witness-rich environment is what we're looking for. So if you're rolling down Center Street and the ball game's going on, or you've got police cruisers going in and out, great option. But the witness-rich environment is the key here. Fire departments, again, they roll as a team. So if they get a call, the whole house is leaving. So if you go while they're out on a call, that's an empty building. You can always call the police as well. Call police, say you think you're being followed. I will tell you most often, it's a road rage incident. You likely made someone angry with driving behavior. You probably don't know it, and they're mad. That's been our experience most often. Your vehicles in your house. I'll get on my soapbox just for a little bit to remind you to lock your doors. Don't leave things unlocked. That is the common theme throughout. People are coming to places like Vienna, places at the end of metro lines, places that are available through public transportation. They're coming as a group. Their intent is to open unlocked vehicles and sometimes houses, but most often vehicles. They're only targeting the unlocked, and they're stealing what they can from there. If your car keys are in the vehicles, that's what they're using to get home. And decades, this has been happening. They are skipping the cars that are locked. But why do we care about property crime? What's something we talked about tonight where property crime would come into play? Because take my stuff, right? As long as I'm safe, take my stuff.
What did you interrupt?
You could interrupt, absolutely. Yeah, someone's in your car and you come out. You don't want to interrupt because that's opportunity now. Someone might say, oh, there's a vulnerable woman who's alone and I think I can beat her, so now I'm going to attack. Great point. What else?
Your information might be in the car.
Absolutely. So your car's unlocked, you're at your dorm, you're parking on the street outside your house. Now they know what house to go to. What do we keep inside of our cars that gives us access to houses?
Garage door opener.
Garage door openers. They hit that door. Do we keep the inside door locked or unlocked from the garage to the house? Yeah, so convenience matters. It's easy, but garage doors are very easy to overcome. They're very easy to break into. So create that door, make it either locked or get a keypad lock so you don't need to dig your keys out to go into the house. You just enter a quick code that everybody knows, you get in the house. So those are options that you can do, quick fixes. They don't require heavy lifting in order to incorporate those into your lifestyle, but they could prevent that opportunity of coming across somebody that might take advantage of seeing you alone if you were to interrupt or if they were to gain access to your house or your car. Another quick tidbit, doors are very easy to kick in if they're standard issue, if they're contractor grade. And I'll show you a quick fix that you can go do without any skill set. This is a diagram of the door frame that usually comes, the door is installed with this already attached. It's a very flimsy, skinny piece of wood. These screws right here, when they come from the builder or the Home Depot, they're very short and they only go into this frame. Very easy to kick out. All you have to do is get 2 3-inch screws and replace what's already there. The holes are already there. You don't even have to pre-drill. You just screw those all the way into the studs of your house. And now those doors aren't easily kicked in. When criminals or people with nefarious intent are targeting homes, they're looking for an easy in and they're trying to avoid noise. They don't want that witness-rich environment. What does noise do? Creates the witness-rich environment, right? So if 1 or 2 kicks doesn't work, they're moving on. Fight or flight is in it for them too. So they're scared. They don't want to get caught. So they're out once noise starts happening. So that's just a quick security feature that we could all do. It doesn't require any skill set, and it's very cheap. When we talk about the RAD program, there's 10 basic principles that we teach. And the totality of those principles, I'm not going to name them here, but our goal is to essentially train the panic out of our response when we're faced with an attack so that we can increase our reaction time and improve our plan of action. So by using those risk reduction strategies and identifying a threat, and we see there's a guy who's just staring too intently as I'm walking down the sidewalk. He's approaching too fast. Maybe his shoulders are hunched. Maybe his fists are balled. He's mumbling to himself something, or he's making eye contact that's just not normal. Is that a guy we want to pass? Do we want to brush hips as we walk on that skinny sidewalk? What can we do to avoid that? Cross the street, and we're giving you permission to cross the street. Do we care if we offend someone like that? No, so do it. But making the decision to do it, denial often makes us, oh, I don't want to offend them. I want to be nice. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. So if we cross the street, has our reaction time increased? If he follows us, are we creating more time to make decisions? Absolutely. Are we giving ourselves time to make a plan of action? Absolutely. So something as simple as that is self-defense. Recognizing those pre-assault indicators that I mentioned, the hunched shoulders, the balled fists, the angry face, the unnatural eye contact, pre-assaultive indicators. Identifying those is self-defense. Knowing those is self-defense. We're going to teach personal weapons. That's the weapons that we have on us all the time. Head, fist, feet, knees. And what's most often forgot is the voice. And we're going to use our voice every single time. We're going to use our voice to be assertive. We're going to use our voice to create boundaries, to hold boundaries, and to create witness-rich environments. A lot of times women are trained not to use their voice, not to resist, not to make people uncomfortable. So this class is an opportunity to give some scripts, give some opportunity to practice what you could say in order to thwart any attack. But a weapon is no good if you don't have a place to land it. So we teach some vulnerable locations, and we teach the ones that are most accessible during an attack. We also limit the personal weapons and the vulnerable locations to what's manageable. We want viable considerations, if you remember our objective. Viable considerations to the woman who is attacked. If we overwhelm women with options or people with options, that decision making becomes delayed, especially in the face of stress. So as stress is introduced to the environment, as the panic starts setting in, as the disbelief starts setting in, the denial starts setting in, the training and the options of self-defense have to be manageable for your brain to start filtering through. So we teach a certain amount of weapons and a certain amount of vulnerable locations, but there are many, many more. And we encourage women to go out and learn them all. We're just not going to teach them in our basic class. We're keeping it foundational and manageable so that nobody is overwhelmed. So we have this book called The Gift of Fear that I recommend quite often, and I'll recommend it to all of you. The author is Gavin de Becker. You can listen to it on Audible. I listen to it on car rides to and from work. I listen to it, and I also have read the hard copies. But Gavin de Becker really goes through some actionable tips that you can include in your life. That trust your gut concept, he discusses that and why. And he discusses how not to let denial interrupt what your body is telling you is happening. You know how to survive. You know threats. We often talk ourselves out of it, though. So don't let yourself do that. And he helps guide that thinking process throughout the book. And I'm going to share a story with you now that he uses in the book about a woman named Kelly. And Kelly is walking up to her apartment. She's got an armful of groceries, loaded up, can't take one more thing, she's that loaded up. And she's thinking to herself, like, man, I really should take 2 trips, but It's nighttime, and I don't want to make a second trip to my car because that wouldn't be safe. So she's walking up, she gets to her main entrance, and the door is closed but not latched. It's one of those key card access things to an apartment building. And she's frustrated because she's like, God, I wish my neighbors really would take our safety more seriously, because this is how people get in. But she's also like, I'm kind of glad now though, because I got an armful of groceries and now I don't have to dig out my card. So she opens the door, she walks in, she turns around and she makes sure that door is closed. She hears it latch. She starts going upstairs. She lives on the 4th floor. 3rd floor, her bag breaks and all her cans of cat food just dump to the ground. And like a cartoon, they just start rolling down the stairs over and over and over again, all of them just tumbling down. And she hears this voice say, I got him. And she immediately doesn't care for that voice. She's immediately like, something's wrong here. But as she's kind of getting creeped out, this guy turns the corner. He's picking up all these cans. He's loading up his arms. Nice, clean-cut looking guy, charming, smile. He says, here, let me help you. And she says, oh, no, I got it. And he says, you don't look like you got it. Let me help you. And she says, no, I'm fine. And he says, well, what floor do you live on? And she goes, the 4th, but, I'm good. He says, oh, I'm going to the 4th floor, too. He says, I'm late, so we should probably get going because I'm already late. My watch is broke, so it's not my fault, but let's go. And he starts grabbing a bag out of her hands, and she's resisting. She's like, no, really, like, I'm good, thanks, but I'm good. And he says, there is such a thing as being too proud. Let me help you. And she pauses and she says, fine. So he takes the bag and they start going up the stairs again. So again, he's got an armful of cans, cat food cans, and a bag in the other. And they start going up to the 4th floor and they get to her door and he's telling her, cats can actually survive for 3 weeks without food. I know that because I once had to cat sit for my friend and I forgot, and that's how long it took for them to come back, and the cat was fine. And by now she's unlocked the door, so she turns to him and she says, hey, thanks, I appreciate the help, but I got it. And he says, oh no, I didn't come all this way for another cat food catastrophe to happen. And she's hesitating again, and he says, I get it. Like, we'll be like the old times, we'll be like the old movies where we'll leave the door open and I'll just put the stuff down and go, I promise. And she relinquishes and says, okay. And he goes into the apartment with her and he assaults her for 3 hours. She escapes. She listens to some more, the gut instinct that she had been ignoring. She listens to more things that came up, and it's all in the book. But she survives. He was arrested. She later found out that he had killed a lot of his previous victims. So by listening to some instincts that came later on, she survived. But when she's talking to Gavin DeBecker, the author, who is a threat assessment professional, this is what he does for a living. So she was there trying to learn about how did I get in this position in the first place, but also what made me think to leave, because she had escaped. And he tells her, you knew all along. And he makes her say what happened. She says, I really wish there was a way that we could get this information out to women so they didn't have to go through what I went through in order to recognize all of this stuff. Because I knew it, I couldn't put my finger on it. Because she couldn't prove it, she didn't want to believe it. She thought she was being rude. She didn't want to offend this guy who was helping her. So I'm going to leave you with those tactics so that you have a takeaway from tonight and you can apply them, whether it's with strangers or people in your life. And it's concept mindset training that you can start incorporating into your lifestyles now. The first one is called forced teaming. This is where we become a we, but there's no reason for the we. So someone's inserting themselves into your problem without cause or authority. So in that story, where did we see forced teaming? What was that?
Cans.
Picking up the cans. We have a problem, let's solve it together. What else?
insisting to take it up to the 4th floor.
Right? Became a we so they could solve the problem together so the cans didn't drop again. We have a hungry cat up there. Do we have a hungry cat? Or do I have a hungry cat? Right? So these are all weird things, but we're not going to pick up on them in our conscious thought unless we're asking ourselves, what's the context here? Why is he creating a team when there is no team to be had? And he's doing it without good intent. So if there's no good intent and no reason or authority for the teaming, it's a red flag. It doesn't always mean attacker, but it's a red flag that you should pay attention to, and you're allowed to pay attention to it. Charm and niceness. I love how Gavin DeBecker puts it. Charming is a verb. It's not a personality trait. People decide whether to be charming or nice, and they decide if they're not going to be charming and nice, but they're used in order to gain trust when trust isn't present. So how did he use that in that story?
Leave the door open.
Leave the door open like gentlemen. Yeah. How else? How did he come up the stairs? Offering to help. Big smile on his face. Talkative. Absolutely. So again, why is this person being so charming and nice? And he often started using those charming and nice traits in the face of her hesitation. So if you're hesitating and all of a sudden someone's being overtly, they got that big cheesy smile in your face, it's glaring, like red flag. Too many details. Where to use this?
No, his cat.
A lot. A story about the cat being not fed for 3 weeks. What else? His watch being broken. How is that relevant to anything? But how is it being used?
That's what he's going to say to pass the reaction.
Yeah, he's using it to manipulate, and he's distracting. And they're often inserted in moments of hesitation. So when people who have nefarious intent see that they're not getting their way, they often distract you from your feelings of distrust so that you stop thinking about them, and then they insert another tactic. So I'm late. My watch is broke. That's the distraction. I'm late. Let's go. The unsolicited promise. Where did this occur? The door. I'll leave it open. He could tell she was freaked out. He knew she didn't trust her safety with him. So he said, I promise. But what happens if a promise is broken? Nothing, right? What's the recourse? Is a promise a guarantee? Absolutely not. But is it often treated that way? Is it often offered as a guarantee in moments of not getting one's way? Absolutely. So if someone is promising you out of nowhere, you didn't ask for that promise, red flag. Typecasting. This is where you negatively stereotype or give a negative interpretation on someone's behavior so that they feel obligated to prove you wrong. So where did he use this? Too proud. You're too proud. So how does she feel now? I'm not too proud. I can accept help. What are some other typecasting stereotypes that we may have faced in our lives? What's a common one for women?
Being stuck up.
You're being stuck. You won't talk to me. You're too stuck up to talk to me. What do you feel obligated to do? Possibly. We hope by the end of the RAD class you don't feel obligated to defend yourself, because you can think I'm stuck up all you want. I'm safe. I don't owe anybody my time just because they want to talk, just because they want to go out. I don't owe anybody my number just because they ask for it. So in the face of that rejection, someone says, oh, you're too snobby, you're too good for me. I guess I am. Bye. Right? And a lot of women struggle with that assertion. And they don't want to be negatively blamed. So they will give in to that pressure. And that's what we want to start teaching. Assertion is okay. Assertive is not aggressive. Loan sharking. When you do something nice for somebody, you give a favor, and they expect something way more in return. Where did he use this? Getting into the apartment, yeah. he was helping her, so he expected her to now allow him into her apartment to continue the help, because I came all this way. Like, I'm not gonna stop now. You gotta let me in, I'll put him on the counter. Like, don't be crazy. Don't be thinking, like, I'm not that guy. That concept is what he was trying to gain manipulation through. And then finally, and the biggest one, discounting the word no. Where did he do this? Over and over and over. This is the biggest red flag out there. If you have asserted a boundary and someone disregards that boundary, and especially when they're repeating the disregard for that boundary, those are the biggest red flags there are. Pay attention to them, because no is a complete sentence. It does not require an explanation, and it does not require agreement from the other person in order to hold that boundary. So you don't have to justify it. If you say no, I'm good, you don't have to have him say like, oh, okay, you're right, I probably shouldn't come into your apartment, before you assert that boundary by closing the door. Okay? Questions on any of those? Let's give a little bit of context, because a lot of these are used in our everyday life with no nefarious intent. I turn me and my toddler into a we all the time. They spill the milk, they spill whatever. All right, bud, how are we gonna fix this? What could we do? Right, at work, if I come across someone in need of mental health services, all right, how can we get through this? How can we help your problem? I'm becoming part of the solution, right? But I have authority to be there in those circumstances. So asking yourself the context and the authority is real important if you're gonna start applying these to your evaluations. So after talking about all of that, what is self-defense? Let's go back to defining it. Are there any additions or changes to what we've talked about? Self-defense is a lifestyle. It's just like eating healthy, working out, staying safe. It's all in the same genre. We incorporate small habits to help secure that foundation of good self-defense. It starts way before an attack even happens. It starts by coming to classes like this. It starts by taking the RAD class. It starts by reading The Gift of Fear. It starts by asserting your boundary. When you say no, the answer is no. That is self-defense. So if we can shift our mindset to bring it all the way back there to keeping ourselves safe in those circumstances, then we're preventing those assaults from even happening in the first place. So it starts with education and it expands with mindset. Training that panic out, being able to make decisions under duress and stress is a skill, and it has to be practiced. It solidifies with that physical training, and that physical training happens with classes or with our RAD program. We teach all of the decision making and the distress inoculation. We give you an opportunity to do that. So in class, we have 12 hours spread out over 4 nights. And on the last night, so this is what happens on the last night. And we have our students. The mayor was a great volunteer for us to show what we do with students. We gear you up to keep us safe, to prevent any unwanted touching. And then we have our aggressors who suit up, usually our police officers. This is Sergeant Slobonic. We keep them safe too. So we want to provide real training with safe training. It's a 4-day class that takes place over 2 weeks. Each class is about 3 hours long, 3 hours, 15 minutes. And it goes from 6:45 at night to 10 p.m. It is an investment in your time. It's hard to do. It's a sacrifice to your time. So we appreciate that and we want to respect it. So we really make those 12 hours count. That last night is when you suit up like this. After you've had plenty of opportunity to practice, we do about 3 to 4 hours of classroom technique or classroom training, education like this. And then we combine it with the rest technique practice. We do dry repetitions where we're not hitting anything. We're just learning technique and slow reps to make sure our technique is proper. Then we move you on to pads. You get a feel for the pad work. We do more dynamic pad work where you're involving movement, stress, speed. And then the last night we give you the opportunity to do the simulations where we put you into scenarios, you get to decide. We stress you out. We want you stressed. We want you to feel scared. We want you to feel fear, because the only way how to learn to work through that, the only way to defeat that stress preventing us from responding is practice. So we do that in a safe environment. So that's the class. Thank you, guys. I'll show you this QR code is, you can scan that and you can get the website. But the website is just the police department's public information and community programs. You scroll all the way down to personal safety for women. There's some information on class to include this year's dates. I'm going to go back to that QR code too. And then we have you register through this form. Just fill out that form, it gets sent to us. And nobody is registered until you receive the customized email back about class details, because we just don't want to over-register people and not have the room. So the room is confirmed by getting that email from us directly, and then you can put it on your calendars as confirmed. This QR code will bring you right to it. Are there any questions? Yes?
What is the age that you suggest?
Great question, yeah.
So I have like a teenager who lives long.
Yeah, teenagers are great, and they're actually more resilient than most adults because they haven't had that fear set in yet. So if we can train them early before we have to overcome the fear, that helps, but it's very unique to the student. So if there's a parent asking about the class for their kids, I usually call them up and I explain what the class covers, I explain the verbiage we use, and I ask them to evaluate their child's maturity level. Some 12-year-olds have taken the class and they killed it. It was great. I've had 16-year-olds that come to the class and they weren't able to complete it. They just weren't ready. So it really is on the parent to decide, are their kids, are their daughters ready for this class? And we can talk about that more if you want. Any other questions?
Where is the location? Is it here?
The location is here in this class. Yep, and we close those so you can't see us through the street. We don't want looky-loos out there.
When's the next class?
April.
April?
Are there any physical limitations, or can anyone take it?
So because it's optional, everything is optional, we suggest people come to class, try it out, see what works for them, and if something doesn't work for them, you just don't put it in your tool belt. So if it is workable, you use it. If it's not, you don't. And at the very least, we're emphasizing education really matters for you because you really don't want to be targeted.
Do you have all the 2-week periods for the rest of the year lined up?
Yeah.
Like, so we can, all homework. So I'll look on those.
Yep, that's all posted. We do that yearly. These are, the highlighted part is the dates for the next class.
There you go.
Are you wearing like workout gear?
Workout gear, flat bottom sneakers are ideal just so when we're twisting, the traction doesn't stick to the carpet. And that's all covered in the emails that we'll reply back to.
And Krista, I'll just say, when they have a class here, the only ones that are in this room are the students and the certified instructors, and we pretty much lock down the room just so you don't have bystanders coming and watching you guys. No one's allowed in here.
When the chief's wife came, he wasn't allowed to watch.
Yeah. But I got the video.
Yeah. So we're not, this isn't a show for
Right.
people.
And the instructors have gone through the class, so all the instructors have gone through what you guys are going to be going through, so they know what's going to happen.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
Kristen, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Like I mentioned, it's a really good program, and what I really like about it is the way it serves the community, but also the way it involves the department. Yeah. Sergeant Slavonic's one of the role players. Juan has been a role player. He's not as intimidating as Sergeant Slavonic, but we have several officers who participate in the program, who come out and help Kristen every time it's taught. So I really like that. It's a community program, but also it's for the department to push out to the community.
Yeah.
It's really
How many
nice.
people in each class? Maybe you already answered that.
So we do try and restrict it to about 18 or 20 so that the space accommodates everybody, but we will make it work if we need to have additional. And return students are always welcome.
And do you ever have to cancel a class if there's not enough people signed up? Is there a minimum number?
There are a few occasions where we've had to do that. It usually relates to school vacations, work functions, holidays. So we've worked it to where we're able to avoid that in most cases.
Good. Okay, great. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay,
Now on to the next part of the program.
that's right.
You can ask the mayor any questions you want.
And this guy too. Yes, any questions?
Seriously, anything at all, something, we're in the
anything
middle
going
of
on in
budget season,
What's going on with the annex?
Okay, sorry, yeah, just go ahead and say it because so that they can
I'm
hear
very
you.
loud. I really
They can
don't
hear
hear
you here. I think it's all for the
Yeah.
video.
I was just wondering what's happening with the possible building, annex, pool,
Right.
whatever.
Yep.
all that is.
I thought someone would ask that. So right now, we are going to start a capital campaign, and that is going to be to get companies or individuals to raise money first, and then we're going to relook at raising the meals tax, and that's the same. It's for 10 years. So that we can build it in 5 years, so we can get it done, so that people in this room and their children can use it. So it's still on the table. We're definitely having very serious conversations. We just put away $200,000. Well, we haven't voted on it yet, but in our budget work session, we are looking at saving $200,000 a year just to save for the operational expenses, so that we have something ready when it is built. So
And
that's what's happening.
It will be open to the public?
Yes.
Or it's like a
Well,
membership? or?
there is membership.
Okay.
Yes, there will be membership fees. They will be less for Vienna residents. The membership fees, we have some ideas, but of course, in 5 years, it might be a little different. But it's not going to be so. We want it to be accessible for everybody. That's the goal. Is that right now. There's so many people are on waiting lists for pools. I mean, I'm a member of Vienna Woods, but it's really only open not even 3 months now, and the lifeguards are going back to school, and so in August you can't even use it until after the kids get out of school. So and then we have Westwood that some people are a member of, but it's expensive, and so we want it to be accessible to everybody, and so that's the goal. Yeah. Anybody else? Questions? Things going on in town? No? Yeah, if you want to hand the mic right back. Yeah, perfect.
I want to know about the casino which is going to come. I keep hearing about it. Do you know what's happening?
Yes, so been working hard to fight the casino. I truly have not talked to anyone in town that is for it. If people in town wanted it, then I would not be fighting it so hard, but everybody I've talked to does not want a casino for so many reasons. I think the chief police said that I don't think that the police thinks it's a favorable thing for the community. And so for this year, they have given it to a committee and it has died. This is the General Assembly, Virginia General Assembly. So next year it could come back and we'll have to fight it again. There's a lot of money, that is going into this. So that's really, to me, the only positive of this is that it would raise funds, but there's such a list of negatives. So we'll keep fighting. I will keep, if I get reelected in November, I will fight it again next year. And the entire council is unanimous. So we are all together. We have our supervisor, Alcorn. He sees the negative effects that would happen. And so we've got him. We've got Delegate Siebold. We also have Senator Salim. So the people in this area, are all working together, rest in, all the other jurisdictions also. Did I answer that question for you? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Back to crime.
Okay.
What would you say is the most common crime in the town of Vienna, and are crimes increasing? Decreasing?
Sure. The most
Sorry, I
common
didn't
crime
miss
is going to be running stop signs. No.
Yeah. Please.
It actually boils down to a little bit what Kristen talked about. It's cars. It is breaking into cars, and it's really a complacency issue. I mean, I'm not picking on residents or anything, and we all do it. But with technology nowadays, so many people leave that little key fob in their car, which now means your car's not locked. And every once in a while, we'll get groups that run through. That's one of the reasons I'm concerned about the casino, because these type of groups come more when you have things like casinos. But groups come through neighborhoods, and they just sit down in the driver's seat of a car, put their foot on the brake, and hit the little start button. If the fob is in the car starts, and they drive it away. We get them, usually series, like I haven't seen any recently, but yeah, exactly. But it's usually series. When I see one, I will see 5 of them over the next week. Or they're just getting in and getting money out of a car, just change. That's the biggest thing we have, to be honest with you. That's the biggest concern.
Catalytic converters like slowed down?
It has slowed down some. It has slowed down. We occasionally will see one of those go, but it's slowed down. One does a great job with education, and we did one of these programs specifically geared towards things like breaking into cars, how to protect that key fob. Buy little ones. What's the bag called, one?
Faraday.
Faraday? Faraday bag. So you can put your fob in it so no one can read your key fob.
Yeah, so the signal doesn't come out.
Yeah.
Because you tend to leave the key in the kitchen or something, and they use this thing that magnifies the signal, so they get near like the areas of the house where it's gonna be. Sends the signal to the car, and the car thinks the key's right there, so it opens up and starts. That is user amplifying the signal of the key towards the car. One is by the car, one is by the key, and they just communicate.
Yeah.
So the Faraday's the place where you put it. They sell on Amazon or everywhere. You could buy a box, or you could buy a little pouch and put the key in there.
I was just wondering about an update on the deer overpopulation.
Sure.
Okay.
Right, so the deer, yeah, this is a good one for both of us, right? You want to take it?
I'll take it. Several things. When the mayor and council decided they want to look at the deer management. No one's made any hard, fast decisions, but they want to look at it. Several things we had to do, and that's what we're in the process of doing. First thing we had to do is talk to Fairfax County, because they have a deer management program. It's an entire program. It hunts the entire county. So we met with them, and after some working through Supervisor Alcorn, they would be willing to come in and do some deer management at a couple of our larger parks. Our parks are really small. And a lot of people say do bow hunting, trap them. You can't trap a deer. You can't move a deer. It's against the law to like trap a deer and move it to another location. You can't do that. So if we wanted to do a managed hunt, first step was to see if Fairfax County would help us with it. They have said they would help us with it. The next step was we don't have ordinances that would allow for that help. So coming in April, we're going to go, I'm working with the town attorney, Mr. Brulia, to come up with some ordinances that if we want to do this, the ordinance will be in order to do it. Then the hard part will be the decision of, do we want to bring the county in to do limited deer management? I don't call it hunting. It's not hunting. It's deer management. Bring in limited deer management at a couple of our bigger pieces of property in town. If we decide to do that, that can't happen till the fall, just based on the way the program works. So the next significant movement we'll see is probably be this fall, if we want to do something like that.
Yeah.
Pardon me for the pun, but has there been an uptick in Lyme's disease reported in Vienna?
Right.
I grew up in Loudoun, and I know Western Loudoun for many years.
I mean, I only have anecdotal, just things people tell me. I don't know, do we track that at all? Is there anything?
We may get a call here or there. We don't necessarily track it. As it applies to deer specifically, even bigger than Lyme's disease, because as we move forward with the deer management code change, we're also going to put in code that you aren't allowed to feed the deer, because that's another problem we have. I didn't realize it until I did this research. It's called deer wasting disease, which is a disease that's killing a lot of deer in Virginia. This area of Virginia has already been declared overpopulated. We don't need to count deer. We don't need to say we've seen them. We don't need to go by car crash statistics. The state has already declared this area of Northern Virginia overpopulated. And we do have deer wasting disease in this area. That's why we are encouraging residents. We don't want to go out heavy-handed. I know people, you break up your pumpkin, you want to feed the deer, but what you're doing is you could be creating a situation where you're spreading deer wasting disease. If a deer already contaminated comes and eats that pumpkin, other deer come and eat it, you could be spreading that disease, which is a death sentence to any deer that gets it. And we'd like to get control of that at the same time we're doing other deer management issues.
Okay, just be safe, everyone, and thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you for coming. Sign up for the RAD class.
Yeah, yes, and sign up for RAD. Yes.